what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Good morning, Yolanda. How are you?
I'm
Good
great,
morning,
thank
Dr.
you.
Constance.
A little technical glitch this morning. Apologies
Yes.
to our viewers, but I'm sure we can move on with the show.
There are a lot of exciting headlines.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's look at those stories that are shaping the agenda for you today. Let's pull up this day newspaper. So the major themes in today's headlines across the papers include the nomination of General Christopher Musa, former Chief of Defense Staff, as the new Minister of Defense. This comes after the resignation of Alhaji Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, who held that position amidst escalating violence. Security remains central, and the continuing fallout from recent mass abductions has kept public pressure high. In line with that, this day has gone with President Bola Tinubu commending Nigerian troops for their sacrifice in fighting terrorism, which has allowed for stability in the country. It also reads about that piece on the nomination of General Musa as a new defense minister. And on the window, Governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, has presented 1.62 trillion naira for the state's 2026 budget, which he calls a budget of renewed momentum. Moving on to leadership, which leads with northern governors, others praising that appointment of General Musa, while reporting that the U.S. House Committee Chair has asked that Nigeria disarms militias and return displaced families to their homes. Also, cash demand surges as currency outside banks hit 4.65 trillion naira. And finally, Governor Deleke has dumped the PDP. Moving on to New Telegraph, which quotes President Tinubu as saying that all ungoverned spaces in the country will be reclaimed from non-state actors. The PDP brouhaha continues, with the party planning to place disclaimers, or they've already done that, on Wike, Fayoshe, Anyanwu Bature, and others that it has expelled. And still on police withdrawal, first spokesman warns that police officers still escorting VIPs will be arrested. Apparently, not all of them have obeyed the instructions of the president. In Delhi Independent, personal pension plan fails to deliver expected returns after 6 years, according to investigations. As Senate considers toll-free emergency number nationwide. VP Shatima here says that dictatorship isn't possible in Nigeria due to the vigilance of the media. So he's giving kudos to the Nigerian press. Daily Sun highlights the ongoing constitution review, reporting that the National Assembly will make major decisions on state police, local government autonomy, gender bill, and others between December 9 and 10. That's very soon. Today is just December 3. Vanguard writes about the kidnap of 5 Rivers University students and 14 passengers in Imo by gunmen. And U.S. lawmakers disagree with the federal government on alleged Christian genocide. They say steps taken by the Nigerian government so far is insufficient. The Punch leads with U.S. lawmakers and Nigerian reps holding a fresh session over insecurity, while reporting that the federal government contractors have launched fresh protests over 500 billion naira debt. In general, there is a strong pressure on the government to deliver real improvements in security and public safety, not just announcements. Public trust seems fragile. For many Nigerians, the key question is whether promises translate into tangible improvements. Less insecurity, stable fuel prices, reliable power, and downward pressure on cost of living. Let's see what the international papers are saying. We can start with the newspaper. We can pull that up. In several papers across the United Kingdom, there's a deepening sense of public discontent or distrust, whether relating to policing, justice, or fiscal transparency. It's a balancing act between legacy, historical scandals, and long-running issues, and contemporary political and economic challenges. So the I newspaper, for instance, states boldly that there's been no justice after 36 years of investigations into the Hillsborough disaster, a fatal crowd crush at a football match at the stadium. In the Times, economists warn of lower growth and higher bills, while it says double tax whammy is about to hit hybrid tax drivers. Daily Mail shares the royal scandal following Andrew Mountbatten's almost rent-free existence. Now, MPs will scrutinize rent deals enjoyed by other royals such as Sophie, Edward, and Princess Alexandria. The Daily Telegraph shines light on the Russia-Ukraine war as Putin says he's ready for war with Europe, picking holes as their proposed peace deal looks like it's almost falling apart. Financial Times quotes Nigel Farage as telling donors he expects to match the Tories before the next elections. The Guardian focuses on the handling of China's spy case, which has been described as shambolic. In metro.co.uk, Justice Secretary David Lammy gets a bashing as he admitted 12 more convicts have walked free under his watch, as well as announcing the end of jury trials for thousands of defendants. Globally, Vladimir Putin threatened to cut off Ukraine's access to the sea in response to recent drone attacks on Russian tanker ships in the Black Sea. The U.S. president announced that his administration will soon begin land-based strikes against countries it accuses of trafficking illegal drugs into the United States. Mr. Trump specifically singled out cocaine traffickers across the world, hinting that countries like Colombia and other Latin American countries could become targets. The announcement has triggered a sharp backlash. Some Latin American leaders view this as a threat to sovereignty and warned it could be tantamount to a war. Now let's break down what these headlines mean for citizens. Let's return to This Day newspaper. In This Day, there we have the appointment of General Christopher Musa and the president applauding our troops for all the work they do to keep Nigeria safe.
I think it's in line with the declaration of the emergency on the security sector, we can see the president matching words with action now. And I think the intention of the president is quite clear by finding the round peg in the round holes in person of General Christopher Musa. We said it here when he was removed from office as a CDS that in terms of performance, there has never been in history the kind of onslaught we saw against the insurgents. We saw terrorist leaders being apprehended during the time of General Christopher Musa. So coming with that kind of high credentials, but now he will be functioning in a different capacity where he's meant to bring in political leadership, political re-engineering, and a political drive to the military. When he was the Chief of Defense Staff, there was a lot of emphasis on his military professionalism.
Right.
But now we'll be seeing a shift from his military professional demand to how he rises to the exigency of the political realities of the insecurity situation, and it would be meant to interface with several agencies. So the president has to be careful now with the over-concentration on the military, while he also looks at how other related agencies, how he can weed out the shaft from these agencies so that we can have a comprehensive and concerted approach in tackling this insecurity crisis. I think you've been itching to say something about General Christopher
So,
Musa.
you had mentioned about how we are moving away from, what he has done as a soldier, but on the contrary, I think we're also going to see a mixture of skills in, General Christopher Musa now coming into the jig of things. There's a clear priority on operational competence, now bringing in a career soldier. And this is what Nigeria needs at the moment. We need tactical strategy. So it's very good to see somebody with that level of skill coming up now, and also bringing in the policy part of things that is required to hold that office.
Indeed.
And I think Nigeria, you know, at this time, everybody's on their toes. Everybody needs results. Everyone is afraid of what tomorrow holds, because for the past few weeks, almost on a daily basis, we have been having back-to-back attacks in different parts of the country.
And you know, he has also called for the fencing of the borders.
Yes.
He has also raised alarm on so many other issues, like the sponsoring of this terrorist institution that has lasted over 15 years. So we'll see what he has said, watching from both within and outside now, how he's going to bring in a political drive to address many of these situations. I wish him the very best of luck.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, just as thoughts, one wonders whether the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, will also resign.
Well, he's coming from Zamfara, where they had this no-fly zone, and he's also expected to bring in that practical experience, especially at the time where they are calling for state policing. He knows, because Zamfara too is has been a hotbed for banditry activities, especially when it comes to illegal mining, which the northern governors are calling for a suspension. Whether that is the best approach or not is a different kettle of fish entirely.
So the appointment of General Musa signals a shift towards perhaps more militarization of the leadership of the services in the country today, given this escalating violence. We know that the former Minister of Defense, who just resigned, was a civilian, you know, and so there was that sense that he lacked what it took to step up to the plate in a time like this. And so we now, this is crunch time. Yes. It is crunch time. So we now have a soldier stepping into that fray, a soldier who has experience, who has done it before, who has been in that environment before. So the president did not tour his usual path of picking political allies, you know, people from his political party. He has gone for a soldier. And from what a lot of people have said, General Musa brings a lot to the table, but he's not going to be doing this alone, because this is not one-man job. Indeed. You have an entire force, different forces that are going to be working together, so coordination will also be important. So what you are seeing here is international pressure as well as local dynamics breathing down the neck of the president to move fast and do the right thing and to deliver. And so you will see a deep operational experience, strong institutional networks, and first-hand understanding of the military's capabilities and weaknesses, you know, be brought to bear.
Absolutely. As
the new minister takes office. However, he also raises questions about whether a career military officer can implement the broader sector reform. There's a bit of politics in ministerial position now. Indeed. It's not just a soldier's work. You know, so we're going to see how he would sort of strike a balance, you know, between career military man and the politics that goes on within, you know, the country, because there's a lot of politicking that is being played.
Expectations are high.
Yes, definitely.
Expectations are high.
So we'll see whether this moves the needle. Let's see a second story, Leadership newspaper. So Adeleke, Governor Adeleke has dumped the People's Democratic Party. His leaving the party coincided with the PDP governorship primary in the state. He cited ongoing crisis in the party. Adeleke will declare his next move before December 13, a commissioner from the state told us. Let's pair that with Vanguard newspaper, where we also have that PDP crisis. Wike, Fayoshe, others get expulsion certificate. The certificate has been sent to 11 members in what the party says is an attempt to enforce discipline as well as sanitize its ranks. Apart from Wike and Fayoshe, there's Samuel Anyanwu, Omaru Bature, Mao Ohabonwa, Austin Nwachukwu, George Turner, Abraham Amar, Kamaruddin Ajibade, among others who have been issued this certificate. The action is formally to notifying the National Executive Committee, the police, the DSS, the NSCDC, the party said. So anyone that decides to do business with these men does that at his risk, or his or her risk, the party added. So that's...
Now, with the party deeply divided now into factions. We have now what we call the Turaki faction and the Abdurrahman's faction. But a decision has been taken at the party's highest decision-making organ, which is the National Convention, announcing the expulsion of Wike and 10 others thereabouts. And we can see the follow-up with the party national chairman, Kabiru Turaki, who has also announced that they are following this up with the dispatch of the expulsion certificate so that they can have evidence that they've been these people have indeed been expelled from the party. But when we look at the more fundamental implications, like what you said about Governor Adeleke pulling out, for dumping the PDP, because he is a skillful politician that knows the political implication of still peddling in that ship, that ship might not be a viable platform. So he has already announced his resignation since from the PDP since November 4, when he submitted his resignation letter at the Sagba Arobiodu ward in Eden North local government area. And he's saying that before December 13, in line with Section 178, that the elections will be of the Constitution, that elections will be conducted elections should be conducted at least 150 days to the election, 150 days earlier before, or 100 or 30 days to the date of that particular election, before the expiration of that office. So when you look at the legal landmines ahead, and the step taken by Governor Adeleke, we begin to question the veracity of this expulsion letter, because we don't know if the Abdurrahman's faction also have that right to issue expulsion letter to people it deemed as threats to its factional leadership. So, well, I think we'll have more revelations in the coming days as we see how PDP will meander its ways. We saw their performance at the elections, the Anambra governorship election, very woeful performance, and that could be traced to the current leadership crisis, internal leadership crisis that is bedeviling the party.
So the PDP, again, in the news, and this expulsion letter is, I think it's noteworthy. And the reason why I say that is that they're moving from just verbal announcement to now procedure and legal and documentation. And so this makes it more difficult for the members. I know they're going to go to court probably, but this makes it more difficult for them to claim membership and participate in the party's internal processes, because now, you know, it's been written and they've been issued the letter that they are no longer members of the party.
Well, the question is which faction?
Well, that's why I said that the other faction might decide to go to court, you know, and say that they are the authentic faction of the party. But remember that INEC had recognized the existing faction of Damagu before they went to the convention, and then had, you know, the Oyo convention, and then appointed Tinubu Turaki as now the national chairman of the party. But the point that is here is that the PDP is trying to reposition itself. Whether this expulsion and disciplining of its members, they claim have been sabotaging the party. Whether this comes too late is another question. Maybe it's a little too late.
One thing we might inject in this discussion is that now INEC might recognize the PDP, the court might recognize the PDP, but after all said and done, there might be no party to point to. Because when you look at the massive defection of state structures away from the PDP, and now with the inclusion of the Adeleke's defection, I wonder if there is any party to point out to.
Well, what took them so long? You know, if the disciplining of party members had, you know, existed or taken place all these years, I don't think they would have come to this stage where the party is almost in shambles. Yeah,
you look at the situation where the party's nomination form for governorship is about 40 million naira. Yes. We know that some of these people that have been expelled are strong sponsors of this expression of interest nomination forms. So we don't want to dig deeper into that, but we'll leave that the rest to the imagination of the viewers.
Right, let's see the Punch newspaper, where federal government contractors have launched fresh protest over 500 billion naira debt. about 3 months after their last protest, hundreds of people under the aegis of the Indigenous Contractors Association of Nigeria again blocked the Ministry of Finance headquarters in Abuja yesterday. Some of the placards read, "Don't pay 2025 until you finish paying the 2024 debt." So, I mean, I saw what happened yesterday at the Ministry of Finance, actually, because I usually drive through. Yeah. I drive through that road, to go home. And this morning, the whole road was blocked. There was a lot of traffic. They had placards. They blocked the gate of the ministry.
Goodness.
To stop workers from going in or coming out. There was music. People were talking. People were screaming and yelling. And then this morning when I was coming to work, they still had some vehicles blocking the gate. So I think they probably will resume, when day breaks today. But remember also that recently, very recently, at the National Assembly, there were also contractors that were protesting there, that they have not been paid for 2024. Jobs that have been done and completed for 2024, not to talk of 2025. This is December.
Very unfortunate.
It's end of year.
Right.
And so the questions that they raised was, if these monies have been, or some of these monies have been allocated for 2024, why do you not want to pay us? And this is almost end of year. And so this also will affect the projects across the country, whether it's at the national, state level, at the local government level. So this is something that really needs to be looked into.
I think a part that you forgot to mention is that these projects were actually completed. They're not just 2024 projects. These are completed projects from 2024. So here you have hundreds of people literally storming the Ministry of Finance, making this ruckus because they need their money paid to them. 500 billion was the amount that was quoted, and you wonder, what does the future hold? Will this discourage future contractors from wanting to even take up these projects? This used to be something that is people run to. They want to have a project that they're taking up. But at this point, with money not being paid of over 500 billion,
contractors will be contractors.
Yeah.
There are people that are professional contractors in Abuja. This is their job, so they will go back again and again. And government has a history of delaying payments. In fact, it is painful to be a federal government contractor because most times you have to get used to delayed payment. We're not saying it is right, but this has become the norm.
Yeah, I think in addition, we have to look at the far-reaching implication of this kind of development because these are local contractors under the auspices of the Indigenous Contractors Association of Nigeria.
Right.
And so does that mean that there is a double standard in the way foreign international contractors are treated and the way our local contractors are treated? That's one. Then when we look at that most of these contracts could have been in Naira, we look at the uncertainties in terms of the foreign exchange impact on this Naira. The quality would have devalued considering this delay. And more fundamentally, I think that the time has come when we need to look into the need to strengthen our procurement act that would address many of these delays. This shouldn't be.
Okay, quickly, Benga, I don't think even foreign contractors deal with delay in payment. Issues? It's the same issue. It's the same. Anyway, let's quickly go to the international headlines. So Trump to host presidents of DRC and Rwanda in Washington, D.C. to sign a peace deal. There's that U.S.-Venezuela face-off, and then Putin, Russia ready for war, he tells Europe, Yolanda.
I think yesterday was an explosive day for Trump. As some of the reports that we took, we saw he had a very spicy choice of words earlier when he was speaking about the Somalis. But, I think this is purely a power move when it comes to DRC and Rwanda having these peace talks. This is definitely a peace move. A power move from President Trump. Earlier in the year, he was bragging about how he had brought so many wars to a stop. And I'm wondering if this, peace deal is another notch on his belt of things that he has done. So that's just food for thought right there. And just to give some context, the DRC and Rwanda have been at war for 30 years. So this is a very big war. But we all know as well that the signing of a peace agreement is just the beginning. What is actually happening on the ground? Is there actually peace? Will these rebels stop fighting and engaging at such, you know, at such an alarming rate where so many lives are currently being lost? Speaking about the US-Venezuela face-off, during a cabinet meeting that was yesterday, President Trump and Pete Hegseth literally insisted that their move was justified. They refused to address the fact that lives were lost, that survivors were actually part of the collateral of that bombing. And so they were saying in their defense that they are just protecting American waters, American citizens, by, you know, bombing these narco terrorists. So they claim that they did not see any survivors. And finally, President Vladimir Putin says he does not want a he doesn't want a war with Russia and Europe, but he's ready for it if it comes.
You know,
so will he be able to actually uphold that?
Right.
At the moment, Ukraine-Russia war is ongoing. How can you put out such a statement as that is literally saying
several failed ceasefire deals?
Absolutely.
So let's quickly go back to the DRC. You know, not everyone, you know, President Trump doing his best, although he's trying to put out fire in some places and trying to start a war at his backyard in Venezuela. But not everyone agrees or accepts that deal. So, for instance, DRC Nobel Peace Laureate Dr. Denis Mukwege reportedly was quoted as saying that this deal is illegitimate and precarious and incapable of guaranteeing lasting peace. So they are saying that what is happening is predatory dynamics. Foreign powers coming into DRC and taking advantage of it because of the war. And so they are saying that the president of DRC needs to make public the details of this agreement before it's signed so that people from the country can see what it entails. Is it selling off DRC or is it not? They want to know what is actually going on because they do not trust him. Okay. And then to US Venezuela, of course, you know, he's starting another war. The US president has given, you know, the Venezuelan president, you know, a week to leave, and he's not leaving. We don't have time to get more into